Remembering a day the Earth stood still. On April 26, 1986, radiation alarms went off at the Forsmark nuclear plant in a remote Swedish village. Yet nothing was out of the ordinary at the plant. No malfunctions, no issues to speak of. The radiation must have come from somewhere else, which would have been very strange because Forsmark is located 100 miles from Stockholm and double that from the nearest Swedish nuclear reactor. Little did the operators know that a day and a half earlier, a terrible nuclear accident 620 miles away took place, the Chernobyl disaster. The Soviets initially dismissed the earlier allegations of the Swedish Radiation Agency and the Swedish government. It wasn't until the Swedes threatened to go to the International Atomic Agency that the Soviets finally buckled and confirmed there had been a terrible accident. The Chernobyl nuclear accident, located in the town of Pripyat, now in the Ukraine, will go down in history as one of the worst events ever for the nuclear industry, stemming from both engineering design issues and a lack of oversight by plant operators. Reactor number 4 blew up. The explosion sent radioactive material soaring into the air, sending it across Europe. In the town of Pripyat, hundreds of people fell ill due to the acute radiation sickness. Reports state that directly causing the death of 28 citizens. It has been stated that several thousand cancer-related deaths due to Chernobyl radiation have been caused. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster is referenced by many as a reason to not use nuclear power for electricity generation. Chernobyl has even been referenced as a reason to shut down one of America's most important nuclear reactors, Indian Point. The Indian Point nuclear power plant in New York powers the homes of millions of New Yorkers. Governor Cuomo, the state of New York governor, has been a long advocate of closing down the power plant due to terrorist risks or catastrophic failures, like at Chernobyl. Accidents are possible, though I'd point out incredibly rare statistically. But you know what? Cuomo isn't totally wrong either. Indian Point was commissioned in the early 1960s. And frankly, those nuclear reactor designs are not as safe as today's Generation 4 nuclear reactors. This doesn't mean it should be lights out for uranium. There are a few reasons for this. It is the cleanest source of baseload power globally today. That's a fact. Gen 4 or Generation 4 reactors are incredibly safe, while cheaper and faster to build. That's also a fact. Let's continue with the state of New York. What you're looking at right now is a pie chart we put together of the New York electricity power mix. As you can see, 40% will be natural gas, 1% is about coal, nuclear was 30%, then hydro is 24%, mainly owned by Brookfield, then you have wind percent, and others make up too. So uranium makes up roughly 30% of New York's power mix. Across the United States, uranium powers about 20% of America's baseload power for homes. This past week, Governor Cuomo finally killed Indian Point, which is a 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plant. Now, 1,000 megawatts, is that a lot or is it a little? That's big, just so you know. It powers millions of homes. This nuclear power plant produces zero carbon emissions. And historically, Indian Point produced a quarter of New York City's electricity. The nuclear electricity production will be replaced by a 650 megawatt natural gas facility. Well, natural gas is a hydrocarbon. This is estimated to raise New York Power's sector carbon emissions by 29%. That's like adding 1.4 million cars to New York City in carbon emissions. Political irony at its finest. So New York boasts of its nation-leading climate change targets, yet well over 50% of the city's electricity comes from fossil fuels. The facts. Math matters, eh? That's what you're looking at right now here. New York City's electricity supply is now touching 2/3. That's dirty power. America's brightest and wealthiest are investing big into nuclear. Take Bill Gates, for example. Did you know he started his own nuclear reactor company? While you may laugh it off as just some rich dude building a pet project, I'd suggest you take a closer look. His team has actually designed a really solid reactor. It works. There are a handful of other companies in the sector all developing incredible Generation 4 reactors. These Gen 4 reactors are faster and cheaper to build, and most importantly, they are incredibly safe. Generation 4 reactors operate at atmospheric pressure. They cannot explode. There is no meltdown risk. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested into these designs. Safety issues aside, the gigantic cost overruns and decade-long build times of the old school Generation 1 and 2 reactors render them unaffordable and uncompetitive in today's first world markets. If nuclear wants a legitimate future, it lies in Gen 4 reactors, which are competitive on a cost base against other baseload options. And the progressives will love that there are no carbon emissions. Compact cities like New York are great case studies for the Gen 4 reactors, where land and space is at a premium, but so is power demand. It's a delicate balance, but one that is safer, smaller, and cost-efficient Gen 4 reactors could help to solve. The most important thought leaders in the world are getting behind this movement. America's largest utility companies like Duke Energy are getting behind these new reactor designs. Ask yourself, who owns Duke Energy? Even stating on the record that they will phase out natural gas plants in favor of Gen 4 nuclear reactors and renewable power. It is a bold statement from one of America's largest utility companies, that is Duke Energy. Prices on pollution are only going higher. Do you know what a carbon credit is? Do you know that carbon credits have outperformed all major asset classes over the past 3 years? Do you know that the price of an emissions credit is up nearly 50% year to date and continues to rise? That's the chart we've put together here. The green line are the carbon credits. The red line is Bitcoin. The black line is the NASDAQ. Blue is S&P 500. And there's our little precious pet gold at 34%. The point is carbon credits are real and they are the commodity of the 21st century. This type of asset class used to be what's called niche, only available to sophisticated investors or really large hedge funds. Mark my words, soon it will be mainstream and more popular than Bitcoin. Climate change is an incredible inflection point in human history, and every politician in a position of major power is pushing this agenda through. A mind-boggling amount of money is going into this agenda, as subscribers of the KRO, Catoosa's Resource Opportunities, are now familiar with. These types of inflection points represent enormous wealth-changing opportunities if you know where to look. As Sir John Templeton once said, it is impossible to produce superior performance unless you do something different from the majority. Not 1 in a million investors are looking at this sector, or if they are, they have absolutely no idea how to invest. That will change very soon. Stay safe.